Hello and welcome to the First Brick Property Podcast, episode 26. My name is KM. I'm the director of the First Brick Property Buyers Agency. The purpose of the podcast is to bring a casual style show to discuss all things property, with education being the key. Our episodes will range from a variety of topics to having special guests on who can share insights into the property world. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned investor, this show will be able to further your knowledge and really remove any barriers to getting involved in the exciting and fun world of property. Today I have a very special, incredibly special guest, and I'm very excited for this episode. Before I introduce him, I only really found out about my guest last week. He wrote a little article about Holsworthy, a southwest suburb in Sydney, and he very generously tagged our business, First Brick. So I saw the post, I've shared the post, and since then I went onto his page. I've read everything on his page. It's taken me a little while to get through, but it was amazing stuff, and I thought I have to ask him to come on, and he was very, very generous enough with his time to drive down to my area and jump on and just to share a little bit of his knowledge. So my guest today was born and he's lived in Sydney for most of his life. He's also then packed up and moved to Japan, lived there for 3 years. We'll get into that. He's also lived in Gold Coast for some time, and he's got a passion for journalism and numbers. He's done a lot, clearly. He's got a lot going on. He's in the travel business. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my guest for today is Matt from Sydney Suburb Reviews. Matt, how are you?
Good, KM. Thanks for having me, mate. How are you?
No worries. Thank you for coming out. I'm very good. Very excited. Very, very excited. It's if anyone doesn't know, we'll tag your business and we'll put your business, you'll put your page and the website in our show notes, so we can share that around. But Sydney Suburb Reviews, I guess it's in the name. You're reviewing Sydney suburbs, and there's a lot of information and a lot of data and a lot of graphics and stuff on your page. Before we get into that stuff, because I just met you today, to be honest, we've been messaging a little bit, but I've only just met you, so I want to learn a little bit about you.
Sure.
So you lived in Japan for 3 years. How did you end up in Japan? What happened there?
Yeah. So I actually, out of uni, the first job that I had was working for the Aussie branch of a Japanese company.
Yeah.
And that was in education, and the opportunity came up to do, after I was there for a while, to do a 1-year contract over in Japan. And at the time I'd been just a little bit bored of Aussie life, and I was looking for something different. And as you can guess, Japan's probably about as different to Aussie life as you can basically get.
Yeah.
So I took him up on the offer, and I went over there and worked over there for the first year and did out the year there. And then after that, I'd only just kind of gotten settled and just gotten the language down a little bit and gotten my social network set up and things like that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like, this is too short. I've got to stay longer.
Yeah.
So I switched from that just to teaching English, just because it's a flexible way for a visa over there, and allowed me to see more of the country while I was over there. So yeah, great country, amazing experience. Ended up being over there for just over 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, decided I'd kind of reached my limit in time to come back home.
Yeah. That's a very interesting story, getting out to Japan. I've never been to Japan. I've got a lot of friends who have been, and they absolutely love it. You went from Japan to Gold Coast, is that right? Or
so I was born in Sydney, born in good old Cogra Hospital.
Yeah.
And you grew up here and everything, but then our parents, for whatever reason, lifestyle reasons, I guess, decided to move us up to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And I was there throughout high school and things like that. But and then went to uni, and then we went over to Japan.
Okay.
And when I was in Japan, I met the woman who became my wife.
Okay.
And so
you just left that out.
Sorry, the small detail. She'll hate me for that, but anyway. So then, decided to, when we came back here, obviously, I mean, if you know the Gold Coast, great place to be if you're in your 20s or in your 60s.
That's it.
It's that middle ground where you try and have a career, and you're trying to do opportunities outside of tourism where it really falls down. Yeah. So the natural choice was to come back home down here and look for opportunities here.
I actually lived in Gold Coast for a little bit of my life.
Yeah, right.
Not too long, just about a year. And just in front of Griffith Uni.
Oh, yeah, right. Southport.
Southport, that's it. Southport. So I lived there for about a year. I was working there in my old job as an optometrist.
Right. Multi-talented.
Yeah. We're both a bit weird, aren't we? We've got weird stories. But Gold Coast is beautiful. You're right. But your 20s or your 60s, everything in between, it is a little bit hard to, I guess, sustain a career and a lifestyle that you can kind of get in Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah, definitely.
But Gold Coast is a beautiful place to live. I'd like to go there in my 60s.
Yeah, exactly. just push it back a few decades and I'll see you there.
That's it. So journalism and numbers, where did that come from? Like, have you always had a passion for journalism? I mean, when I think of journalism, because I'm big into sports, I think soccer journalism. I don't think of the news or property or whatever. I just think sports.
Yeah, sure.
So for me, from looking at a journalism point of view, I think if I was into journalism, it'd really only be because of sports. You got journalism and numbers as a passion.
Yep.
How did that happen? When did it start?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say the sports side of things because basically, ever since I was a kid, my kind of dream job at the time was to become a sports journo.
Yeah.
Specifically for me is basketball.
Yeah.
Ever since I was young. But I mean, ever since I was a kid, I've just loved writing. I mean, English was always the hot topic at school for me. And ever since I was, early teenager, when the online world had just kind of started blooming, I'd always had some kind of blog or little mini website project and things like that, just because writing has always been kind of an outlet for me and a creative outlet. So, writing has just been kind of an integral part of my whole kind of growing up. So adapting it to a space like real estate was kind of not too big of a jump.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I read your review, it was very well written. I mean, I've written a few articles and I'm not a writer at all. Like, this is much easier for me to just talk and, let the computers do what they do and record it. When it comes to writing, it's tough for me. I was reading your review, beautifully written.
Thank you.
It's really nice. That journalism, I guess you've used your passion and go. I mean, my passion when I was a young kid and what my dream is in sports, but I want to be a soccer player.
Yep.
So you had the foresight to see it might not happen to become a professional sports player. I'll do the writing instead. So smart guy.
Yeah, it's a good fallback for those who aren't that good at the sport.
I wasn't that good.
You'll be able to write about it. That's the way.
That's it. So we'll move on to, I guess, your page. So the page is called Sydney Suburb Reviews. Mm-hmm. What were you working on before you started the page, and you've also got a website? How did the page and website start?
Yeah, so I mean
because you're not in real estate.
No, yeah. So the bulk of my background for writing has been in tourism.
Yeah.
So I've worked for startups and things like that have covered the travel industry mainly. So a lot of that, obviously, as things moved online, a lot of it was content driven, and obviously writing is a huge part of that to be able to fuel, traffic and SEO and all those kinds of things for business. And part of that as well was creating campaigns to try and get people aware and traveling to different parts of Australia. So a lot of it came from that background. And then obviously for us, coming back down to Sydney after being a couple of years away in Japan and things like that, you realize things change a lot. And so when they're trying to look for a place to live down here, a lot of the information you come across online is either scattered all over the place and it's really fragmented, or it's years out of date, or it's biased from people who have lived there in the one suburb their whole life and say it's the greatest thing in the world, even though they've never actually been everywhere else. So it can be really hard for people to try and get just the neutral and comprehensive and unbiased review, like in human terms as well, because there's a lot of sites out there that just give you data and that's it, and that's fine, but then it doesn't really convey what the average day in the life in the suburb is like. Yeah. So it's kind of trying to walk that balance a little bit better and give people just a neutral view. So
it started as I need information for myself, and then it's kind of grown from there, has it?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of startup type things happen because you find that it's something you needed for yourself.
Fixing your problem.
Yeah, exactly. Filling a gap or something like that. And I think a lot of people can just get overwhelmed by numbers a lot of the time when they're trying to find a place to live. And it's all well and good to just look at a bunch of stats in abstract. Yeah. But it doesn't explain what it's like in the daily commute driving to work, or, how safe it is when you're walking through the local park at night, or, what's the quality of the schools like and things like that as well. So it's just trying to give a little bit more of a holistic view. Yeah,
for sure. That's very cool. I have one more question before we get into the good stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Just because we were talking about it before, even as you were talking, I was like, actually, I have one more question.
You're right.
If you weren't into journalism, what would you have chosen to do? What if you could choose any other profession? What do you think it would have been?
Probably. I'm 5'8", so I'm never going to be a basketball player, unfortunately. Rest in peace those aspirations. But probably I'm a bit of a nerd, so something to do with IT, maybe in in for like a fintech or similar that it deals with the stock market and apps and things like that. So a combination of them.
Yeah, that's very
would be
cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I'm pretty boring. I would just said soccer player.
Yeah. Go for it.
That's cool. No, nice. We'll delve into your website and to the page because I think this is really, really cool. What you're doing and all the listeners. I think you have the links to jump on and follow his page and check the website out.
Sure.
I guess we've started to touch on it, but can you explain to the listeners exactly what is the page? I mean, it's Sydney Suburb Reviews, but what do you find on that page? What is the page about, I guess? I mean, I know it's in the name, but if you want to delve into it a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, the key thing for it is just being unbiased.
Yeah.
So, there's no commercial incentive or nothing being pushed or anything. It's just a kind of a one-stop shop. If you're thinking of living in a suburb, because everyone's got a buying property or even renting for a year is still a big investment and a big decision.
Yeah.
How can you come and just get a neutral overall picture of what daily life is like in that suburb? So that involves cross-section of statistics, sure, but it also involves, interviewing locals and asking for what their opinions are like, actually going there physically exploring every single street, which is very, very time intensive, especially for the bigger suburbs. It takes a lot of time, but you have to do that because a suburb, like you've said before, one street to the next can be entirely different. So if you don't cover absolutely everything, well, then again, you're coming away with an opinion of people who might have only lived on the good side of town or something like that.
Yeah.
So basically, so people can come and just read in-depth articles on each suburb, what the lifestyle's like. We assign them 10 different criteria rated out of 10. Which are important for just living in a suburb, which we might dive into shortly. But and then you can come and then obviously on social media and things like that discuss. We do polls and we do Q&As about what life is like, what you like about this part of Sydney, what you don't like, where would you live if you had X amount of money to spend and things like that as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's very cool. How do you, question without notice, how do you, if there's a few other websites that, some people may have, they stumble upon when looking for a place to live. I can't remember the names of them, but I think it's like Home Suburb or Homely or something like that.
Yeah, Homely. That's
Homely.
Yeah.
Is it different to Homely in a sense, or is it similar? Or
I mean, to be honest,
I haven't used Homely.
Yeah, Homely was one of the first sites we stumbled across when we were doing our research a few years ago about Sydney. And the problem is, it suffers from what I call the TripAdvisor problem, where it's people either rate stuff 1 star or 5 star. There's no logical, balanced opinion. It's either this is they rented for 6 months and someone broke into their house, so it's the worst suburb in Sydney. Or it's people who have been there for ages and trying to sell their house and saying it's perfect, it's flawless, and then you look at the crime rates and they're horrible, or you look at the quality of the local park and there's graffiti everywhere or something like that. So you know what I mean, there's always a bit skewed by the users, those type sites.
For sure because I have gone onto it once or twice before, ages ago, so I don't know what the website's like now, but just as you were mentioning things, it came to mind. But yes, I do remember it was sort of like a movie review or like a games review kind of. It's either, someone's played this game or someone's watched this movie and really liked it and you're getting 100% or 5 stars or 10 stars, whatever it is. Or someone's watched it and says, I don't like that character. Movie's great, but I don't like the character, 1 star.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this, I guess your Sydney Suburb Reviews page is, you've taken that out to make it more streamlined. There's a methodology behind what you're doing, so your personal opinion doesn't really matter.
I mean, I'm not, like I said, I've lived in multiple different different countries, different areas, things like that. I don't own a property down here, so we rent and move around a lot and things like that. So I like to think I'm neutral, but then it's balancing, like I said, my opinions with the opinions of the people who live there with the statistics and just trying to wrap it up into just the fairest possible outcome. So trying to be trustworthy, you know what I mean, is what the goal is.
And I think that approach in any walk of life, I guess, is the best way. I mean, that's how we operate our business. It's, free education through podcasts, articles. If someone picks up the phone and gives us a call and asks us a million questions, we're going to answer a million questions.
Exactly.
In an unbiased way. On our side, we're buying property for clients. And I just showed you a very quick snippet of some of my data.
Deep data.
Deep data. And it's important because, I have to take away my personal opinion about a suburb because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, for
when
sure.
we're looking at numbers, right? It's, will this perform for this person's circumstances in the next 5 to 25, 30 years? Yes, no. Whether I like, the suburb, it's got too many trees for my liking, not enough trees, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And that's something you definitely, I can see can be an issue with some of the other websites.
Yeah, for sure.
I was looking at your page, and I saw the number of followers. Amazing. I think it was like 1,800 followers plus. Amazing. When you started the project, from where it was to where it is now, did you expect the reaction you received and the following you have now? Did you expect to have a full-blown website, a newsletter section, a subscribe section? Like, did you expect where you would be today where you are? Or was it kind of just, we'll see how it goes?
Well, I mean, I think it kind of speaks to Sydney as a pretty broad audience itself, and just the nature of it, that everyone needs a place to live. You know what I mean? It's an undeniable fact. And then, people move around a fair bit for jobs, even within Sydney, from one side of Sydney to the other. So that's an audience themselves who probably needs just some kind of neutral info to make a decision. And then you factor in all the people who move there here, obviously from overseas and then interstate for job opportunities, because like you say, it's Sydney or Melbourne in Australia, pretty much, if you want to, dive into the most job opportunities. So, I mean, I think it's not necessarily on the reflection of how good what we're doing it is. It's just how lacking everything else is out there. You know what I mean?
Very humble.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but no, for sure. I think you're right in the sense of what you're providing doesn't really exist. From in a free point of view, I guess, and because you can go onto the website and look at your stuff. There's no charge or anything like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist, but for sure, I mean, you can't build a following that big. How long has it been since you started?
Probably just over a year.
So in just over 12 months to grab 1,800 plus people following, and hopefully after today's episode we'll bump up
Skyrocket.
Skyrocket, right? Millions of viewers. No, it's testament to what you're doing, and for sure, anyone listening to this, strongly urge you to jump on and have a look, because it's really, really interesting.
Thanks, man.
Really well done. We'll talk about, if we can talk about the actual methodology. This is the part that I'm interested in. And I think a lot of people will be interested in the methodology about how you review, and because you also rank suburbs.
Yep.
So reviewing and ranking suburbs, is there a certain methodology? How did you develop that methodology? How long does it take you to review a suburb? If you can just, delve into that about how you actually go about it. I know you got your ratings system, but what do you look for? How long does it take? All that stuff.
Yeah, sure. So one of the biggest flaws that we kind of wanted to eliminate was with all the livability indexes and everything that are released every 2 years, I think it is. They don't factor in price into their livability equations. And I mean, it's all well and good to just say, everyone should go live in Kirribilli, you know what I mean? Which is not a realistic prospect for the average person.
Yeah.
So our methodology is kind of based on looking at what would the average person be able to afford within a realistic range with the best possible compromise of quality of life. So it's balancing those two aspects. And then so the ratings that we have, there's 10, like I said before, 10 different categories, and then they're all averaged out against the Sydney median, so that you can see skews of each side, and then people can sort and filter based on what's important to them. So if you do have more money and affordability isn't a factor, then you can sort by, high to low if you want to go in affordability. Or if you've got kids and you want, the family friendliness side of things is important, then you can prioritize that way and just come up with the best balance. So so there's 10 different categories that we look at. So I'll go into each of them just quickly. There's traffic. So traffic is basically the driving in and out of the suburb, how easy it is to get in and out. What are the major arterial roads in and around it like? Are there tolls? What's the commute like to and from work in the morning and afternoon? We have public transport, so that looks at, does it have any heavy rail connections? How frequent are the services? What's the frequency of bus services like? Do they have alternative services like ferries or light rail, things like that as well? Price, obviously, as we said, is an important one. So we look at median rental price and median buy price for both house and units, so freestanding and apartments. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And also nature. So nature looks at the quantity of parks, the quality of those parks, levels of litter, graffiti, and then any other natural features that are standards like waterfront views or any other unique nature. Things to see and do, which looks at restaurants, cafes, shopping, any other local activities like things like ice skating rinks or skate bowls or whatever else that are standouts. And then we have family friendliness and pet friendliness. So family friendliness looks at schools, quantity of schools in the suburb and the neighbouring suburbs. Yeah. Pet friendliness, which looks at things like pet stores, off-leash dog parks, vet access, things like that. And then I probably haven't covered them all, but then also safety, which looks at the average crime rate per capita on a Sydney basis. I think it's across like 46 different crimes that are covered by the New South Wales Police. So they're the 10.
That's a very impressive list. It's a lot of stuff that you look at and very important. How do you find that information? Because I know you obviously go into the suburbs individually and you're walking around taking photos and going through the streets. But is the information coming through, you actually going through the suburbs, or are you going onto government?
So it's a mix of both. So we have a massive master spreadsheet which took a long time to build and is aggregated from various data source imports and then manual data entry and things like that as well. So it's a mix of real estate data, ABS data, police crime data, and then the other stuff is ranked according to that as we're there. And then we try and make a consensus, like I said, between our opinions, those stats, and then the public opinion as well, which, like I said, we do a lot of emailing and that prior to it, try and get a bit of a consensus and see if what the consensus is reinforces our views there. Yeah. So again, it's just trying to remove as much emotion from it as you can and be as neutral as possible. Yeah.
When you say we, it's just you?
And my wife.
And your wife, you've thrown your wife into this. You said, listen, this is what you're doing for the next 100 weekends.
Well, Well, I mean, she's not as into it as I am, obviously, but helps to have an extra set of hands. So.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you to the wife for helping me out, because it's an amazing project. How long does it take to review a suburb?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of stuff that you're looking at. And the 10 points that you mentioned there, very, very similar to some of the stuff that we look at from our point of view when we're looking at properties. And I can obviously see why you're looking at those and why we use those. We're obviously looking from a data point of view, and we get a lot of data. How long does it take you to do it, though, per suburb?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the suburb, but probably around 4 to 5 days.
Yeah, wow.
When you factor in, like I said, the things like the data breakdown, and then the like interviewing, the emailing back and forth, and then the physically going there, spending the full day in the suburb, going back, the writing, the editing, the publishing, and then pushing it out to the public via email. So it's pretty time intensive. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
That's that is a lot of work, and so I'm finding a lot of links between what you're doing in our business.
Yeah, sure.
Because we obviously do very similar things. We take about 5 days when we're doing our data sets for customers as well, and it is a lot of time and power and manpower and whatnot, especially and you're working as well. So you have to be very, very passionate about what you're doing.
Yep.
Which is really cool, and I think it's a really nice to see that you got someone's going to spend 5 days on a consistent weekly basis. So it's essentially a suburb per week.
Yeah, try and do 2 a week if possible, because they overlap in terms of the writing. You can hammer out, you can cover the suburbs and then do the writing and things at night and things like that. So,
so 2 a week plus your job, and you've dragged your wife into it for over a year now, and there's probably another year or so to go before you cover all the suburbs.
Oh, it'll be more than that.
More than that, that's real passion. So that's amazing. So that's why I think it'll be very good for people to have a look at your page and stuff, because again, it's just pure passion, and you can read a lot and find a lot. And I saw some. I wanted to ask about this. You've got some memes as well on your page, right? And some of them are pretty savage. Do you get backlash, or do you get like? I wouldn't think you would, but then I'm thinking also, when you're smashing a suburb that someone lives in. I know it's all fun and games. It's a bit of a joke, but sometimes do you get a bit of backlash, a bit of negative comments from people that actually might live in those suburbs? Or?
Yeah, but I think the funny thing is, in the comments, they never really rebut what the point is.
Yeah.
They're more just, saying bad things about you rather than actually arguing what the point is, because a lot of it, like I say, wouldn't do something if it wasn't based on truth.
Yeah.
And I think to some extent Aussies, we can still have a laugh at ourselves, you know 100%. What I mean? And like, I'm not some rich mofo who lives in an ivory tower. I just live in an average place that's not expensive or anything like that, you know what I mean? And it's got tons of flaws. So
I'm going to use that snippet for the preview.
There you go.
I'm not a rich mofo.
There you go. That'll be on my tombstone. But you know what I mean? Like, I think we just got to be realistic. People can pretend to ignore the things that are happening in their neighborhood, but the statistics don't lie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. So if you want a good laugh, because I've had some laughs, a lot of the Lion King, the Lion King ones about, don't go to Mount Druitt or some of those other suburbs. If you want a good laugh, unless you're from Mount Druitt, check out the page. It'd be quite nice. Sydney is quite, every day you feel like Sydney's growing and going out wider and wider. Technically, obviously, there's a point where Sydney ends. How many suburbs technically are in Sydney at the moment?
So I think legally they counted, I think there's 658 suburbs
and
total.
Growing.
Yeah, and exactly. Growing as they invent new developments and things like that. But what we're focusing on is just the ones that have a population minimum of 1,000. Okay. That's kind of the cutoff point, which
isn't much.
Yeah. Well, I think it drops down to about 460 or so. Yeah. So it does exclude a fair bit, but again, even that is going to be, if you look at the vast majority of what people are searching for information on, that covers 95% of what people are after most of the time anyway. For sure. And then as demand goes on, then it can expand, but cover the core ones first. Yeah.
And how many have you done at the moment?
130.
130.
Yeah.
So you do have a few years to go to get this done.
Yeah. Hopefully the goal is to be able to have other people who are interested, if they enjoy writing and can be unbiased. Yeah. Ideally, we'd like to have people who come on and can help break it up, just because you're contributing to something that's going to be helping people all over. For sure. So if anyone's interested, feel free to hit me up.
There you go. Call to action,
guys. Yeah. If you enjoy writing and don't mind having a look around your city that you've never been to before, then give us a shout.
100%. You must find some like really cool spots and restaurants and bars and what you must every suburb. Maybe not every suburb. Maybe, I don't know. You're probably finding a lot of like unique spots and stuff every time you go into a suburb. Or?
Yeah, definitely. There's suburbs that you'd probably dismiss as boring, that you just, unless you actually go and have a look, and you actually, like I said, you've got it. This is why it's important to go down every single street, no matter how time intensive it is, because all it takes is one missed park or one missed attraction, and it totally changes your conception of what the suburb's like. I just urge people to get out if you can and just go to places in Sydney you haven't been to, because everyone bitches about life in Sydney. It's stressful. And it's not that great. There's some great stuff out there. You just got to go look for it,
Because, when people think about going out and, dinner, bar, club, whatever it is, you're thinking city, Newtown,
overrated, just quietly. Newtown, overrated.
We share the same belief there. But... yeah, you must be like, you walk into a random suburb of Holsworthy and maybe not Holsworthy because there's not much here, but like you go into a random suburb, you just find like a little tidbit and luckily you've got the missus and you go have a nice dinner or something. Is there I don't know, question again without notice, is there a suburb that maybe has surprised you the most? In terms of like random amenities and secret stuff.
Yeah, well, it's funny because take a place like Rhodes, for example. Everyone thinks it's just this built-up concrete jungle and it's overdeveloped and traffic's a nightmare and that. And if you go there and you go to the station, you get out there and that's all you look at, that's fine. But like, there's two completely different sides to Rhodes that still fall under the suburbs boundaries. If you go to the other side of the highway, there's a gorgeous part of Rhodes on the water where it's called Kokoda Memorial Park, where it's got a tribute to like the soldiers and it's got all exotic plants there with a little creek running through and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff. Like I said, I think people see stuff on the surface level. If you don't explore the whole place, you don't get a sense of what the true character is. So that places like that spring to mind. Yeah,
that's cool. I've just gone blank. Yeah. So you probably get asked very often, where's the best place to live? I'm guessing because we get asked a lot, where's the best place to invest?
Sure.
We do with own occupiers as well as investors. But owner-occupiers generally have an idea of where they want to live, so they're not asking that question. But a lot of times we're getting the question, one or two questions. When's the best time to invest? Where's the best place to invest?
Right.
Do you get asked a lot, where's the best place to live?
Yeah, it's by far the most frequent question.
Yeah.
And my response to that is there's two ways to look at it. There's one, where's the best place to live if money is absolutely no object?
Yeah.
And there's where's the best place to live that you can actually afford and is going to give you a good quality of life.
Yeah.
So there's two, it depends on the way you're looking at. So yeah, it depends which way you want to go, really.
100%. Yeah, well, for the sake of this podcast, if money is not a problem, because I am a rich mofo, where would be the best place for me to live?
All right. So yeah, I'll handle the if money were no object side of things first. From all the indicators that we've looked at, the number one place I would say, if you're a multi-millionaire, would be Waverton on the lower North Shore.
Yeah.
Gorgeous place, amazing waterfront views, train station connectivity to the city, no through traffic, greenery, little cafes, also shops. You can jump right on the highway and go north if you want to. Chatswood's only a few stops away for big scale shopping. Amazing place, but again, ridiculous property prices. Compared to some of the other bigger name, like famous expensive suburbs, people might not know about it. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like underrated for the price.
For the price. Yeah.
Another place I think, if you got money to spare, not as much. I think Oatley. In the southern suburbs. Down that way, but it's the one that's just before you get down to Sutherland Shire. It's on the tip there. Again, same kind of thing where plenty of greenery, got a train connectivity, good schools, plenty of land. There's got the waterfront area, great park that's had millions invested into it. Yeah. Really nice place, cafes, restaurants.
If someone was curious, one of our listeners, thinking, Waverley sounds like a nice place. Waverton.
Yep.
Price point for Everton, average, we have a lot of rich.
Well, I mean, of course. I think from what I recall, I think the median price is something like 3 million, 3.5 million. Yeah. And again, that would be for a smaller place in Waverton. But again, it's got a pretty diverse housing profile. There are a fair few apartments and that which obviously can cut that off a lot. But the limited supply of houses that are there, and I'm sure some of them will be well over that mark.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So that's anyone listening. If you're interested in purchasing Waverton, you need a buyer's agent. You know who to call. But if you just someone to review your suburb, we've got Matt. I did remember what I wanted to ask before and I blanked out.
Yep.
When you're in those suburbs, are you going on the weekends or during the week or?
Bit of both. Yeah, mostly weekends.
And you're going through every street. Are you on foot? Or are you in a car? Or
it depends on the suburb. So you want to try and get it as close to what the average person will be doing on a daily basis. So obviously, if it's one where the train is not the main primary method to get into the CBD, and we'll drive there and then get out and walk. Yeah. It's a lot of walking.
Yeah.
Typically try and get there around 9, finish up around for like a full work day.
Oh, wow.
Basically. And then and one of the key things is to try and, if you can, obviously coronavirus has made this a little bit more difficult, but try and go to the local pub or whatever that's there and have a chat to people, get a sense of what they like the most or what they hate the most about living there.
Yeah.
So it's a full day on foot usually.
Very intense. What you're doing,
but good exercise too.
It is good exercise. It might actually, you might have to tell me where your next suburb is. I'll get some flyers printed up for my business. Beautiful. If you don't mind.
Beautiful, yeah. Dual purpose. Two birds with one stone. That's all right.
We'll take care of you. Don't worry.
That's all right.
I've only got one more question, really. We were talking about, where the best place to live is if you didn't have enough. If money wasn't a problem. I could ask you about if money was a problem, but I guess it depends on your price point. Yeah, each price.
Well, I mean, the typical answer for the best balance between price and the ratings that we come up with say. A couple places. One is Hornsby, which is up, a bit. It's a bit far out of the city, but it's got good rail connectivity to the city. Traffic down there to get down is its one weak point because the highway there is getting worse. But it's got a good diverse housing profile. It's pretty good block sizes for the price. You're surrounded by national park. It's got a Westfield. It's got tons of good schools. It's got other big box retail. So Hornsby's a good one for the price. And then the pocket. Basically from southwestish, from East Hills down through to so Wattle Grove, Holsworthy, Milperra, and Padstow, Panania, that kind of pocket down there is pretty good value as well for quality of life.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that answered my final question. My final question was just going to say, could you rank your top 2 or 3 suburbs to live in? But I guess you've already done that. So I've run out of questions. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about your page, or how can people find your website? Just let people know how to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you guys are interested, you can go to sydneysubburbreviews.com. We've got a Facebook page, obviously. We poll people twice a week just to see what suburb you'd like us to review the next, because, again, it's the only democratic, fair way to choose where to go next. So if you want to jump on there and have a vote, give us a follow. But otherwise, let us know if there's anything else you'd like to see and information that's not being answered, because we're happy to try and flesh it out even more. Yeah,
for sure. The page is amazing. Very interactive, like you said, quite funny, a lot of memes, but very informative as well. And I think it's a great starting point for someone that's looking to find a place to live and have no idea even where to start looking. There's articles all over the place on the website. You so many rankings on the website. You got top 10 this, top 10 that, top 10 this. I was on your website for like 4 hours the other day.
Nice to see we're doing something right.
Yeah,
that's good.
It was really good, really good stuff. Some of your posts, some of those memes I want to share, like this, hilarious. Just wanted to make sure it was all good to share them.
Please do.
If anyone, we'll put it in the show notes, your website and the page, and we'll put it on our Facebook and our socials so people can find it. Anything else you wanted to speak about before we end this episode?
I'd just say go out and explore Sydney when you get free time. Try and get out of the habit of just going to dinner and then straight back home again. I mean, I know people's time is limited, but the suburbs that we've got here, you'd be surprised by how good some of them are. You'd never know about them unless you see them for yourself. So
for sure.
Go out and enjoy the city.
I guess I'll ask one last, so you mentioned roads. Maybe what would you say is a exciting, fun suburb to visit, and you've got no idea what to do there if you're in your mid-20s?
The classic go-to is Paddington. I think is pretty much the youth. It's kind of the upmarket youth hangout area. But there's a lot of places, like I said, that it depends what you're into, because Newtown, like you say, is the default. That's where you go to hang out. But that still, I think, caters to more of a specific demographic of interest. There's places down further south that are good as well. Obviously, the North Shore, everyone sees it as boring, but places like Crow's Nest is actually up and coming and is pretty cool. And then places out the beaches, even down, not Rockdale, but down the eastern suburbs out that way, the southeast as well. The beachside suburbs there, they've got a lot of upcoming like cafes and things as well, cool beach walks, and they're not as crowded as the more bigger name ones as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, there you have it. Now you know where to go on your weekends. Now you know what to do on your board, where to go. I really, really enjoyed this episode. I think it was great. And if you will be happy enough to come back another time and we'll delve, I reckon, this was a nice episode to get to know about you and the page. But I reckon next time we smash out some suburbs and actually get really into it and see some of your scores and stuff, if you'd like to come back.
Sounds great, Kate. Yeah, it's been awesome, mate. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you for coming out. I know it was a bit of a drive for you.
That's right.
But I guess you're used to driving all over Sydney, right?
That's the way.
So good luck to you for the rest of your 400 suburbs to go. And again,
when you say it like that,
if anyone is listening and you want to, start your journalism career or interested in property or real estate and suburb reviews, contact us and we can get you to Matt, or contact Matt directly through his page, Sydney Suburb Reviews. There you have it, folks. That's all for episode 26. You can find all our posts on our Facebook page, Instagram page, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. We're on everything. You can find us everywhere. Listen to this episode, share it with your friends. Hashtag pass the pod. Pass the pod around. If you tell one person that you think would be interested about this podcast, we will continue to grow, and we've been growing exponentially in the last few weeks. So thank you to everyone that's been doing it. Leave us a review, leave us a comment. If you want to get in contact with us, send us an email to hello@firstbrick.com.au or shoot us a message on our socials. If you need to get in contact with Matt through us, feel free to do that too. We're happy to connect to you guys with whatever questions you may have. And that's about it. Thanks, Matt, for coming on again. It was a pleasure.
Cheers.
Buying property is our passion. Helping you do it is our mission. Ciao.